Welcome to the Heart of Money podcast, where we discuss the personal and emotional elements of money and the impact that money has on every area of your life. I'm Austin Black, a personal finance coach that helps couples overcome their fear and frustration of financial management so they can take complete control of their money. What started as a desire to learn the fundamentals of money management has turned into a passion for helping couples work together to achieve financial success and strengthen their relationship with each other. Whether you're looking for the best strategies to manage your money as a couple, or you're tired of struggling to gain traction and want to overcome the fear and frustration associated with finances, I'm here to help, and this show is for you. Ready to learn more? Then let's talk about the heart of money. Hey folks, welcome back to the Heart of Money. I'm your host, Austin Black, joined by the helium-sucking, apparently it sounds like, co-host, Mr. Bob Wessler, and we will just leave that comment at that.
We will, because, I don't know, did you want me to start with that wonderful helium-sucking voice, or we're just going to leave that
unless
away?
you want everyone to stop listening 3 seconds ago.
Yeah, I'm supposed to be peaking on the scales here, and in order to peak on the scales, I need to use a Mickey Mouse voice that's a little too high. And
it's a good thing that
apparently
folks
that's what
don't
Austin's
get the, prequel 5-minute version before we hit record. Well, they might tune us out before we even get to record. But either way, we're here and we're ready to roll. How are you this evening?
I'm here and I am ready to roll.
Down the hill, all the way.
Down the... or whichever way the house is going to lean this evening, I don't know.
Stop, drop, and roll as long as you get there.
Yes. Yeah, I'm not even going to go into that story. We passed a mausoleum today.
Yep.
And my 4-year-old said something about, I mentioned cremation, and she said, stop, drop, and roll. And I said, it's not going to work in this situation.
That's how you get there.
Yeah, yes. You just stop and drop.
And there's no roll unless someone pushes you.
That's right.
Well, we came off the last 2 episodes with really some honesty and some still soul stepping on feet, I think. But I think we hit a good conversation about the reality of where we're at in our money. And this next 1 or 2 episodes is really just going to, we said that's going to be a summation. This is going to be like the ultimate summation because, we said what the foundation of what we've been talking about the past several weeks. These episodes, we're going to give the, I won't say the keys necessarily, but we're going to give the authority and the opportunity to our viewers in what has to change for you to win with money, right? We talked about how we attain success, and now we're going to get some really practical strategies around what has to change within you, because we know that we are the answer. What has to happen within us to achieve that success, to accomplish those goals, to really set ourselves up for financial freedom in the long run. And I always say I'm excited, but once again I am, because this is a very tangible conversation, I feel like, and I'm excited to see where it goes. What do you think?
I think we're off to a great start.
Ready, set, go.
Without any roll.
Go down the hill.
Yeah.
So, Bob, we got to be honest in our opening comments about this episode, because there are going to be some people that listen to the show and they say, well, that all sounds great, but I think we probably have said that before. That all sounds great, but... And that phrase lends itself, and I still am guilty of this in some areas, that phrase lends itself to believing that there are other factors that we are giving too much credit to and why we haven't achieved the level of success that we want. Do you agree with that, or do you have a different opinion?
That sounded pretty vague. That you're talking about all the things we've put together so far, that there's got to be something else to make it the secret sauce. Is that what you're saying?
Not so much that. But you go talk to someone, you say, well, here's the plan. This is exactly how the steps that you follow, the strategies that you implement. This is the things that we've been talking about that are easy to understand and hard to actually do. And someone can come listen to the show and say, well, that all sounds great, but why? What else is there? Because I can't do that. This isn't going to work for me. What worked for them? Because I can't accomplish that. There's always this but element of, I'll just say, excuse, because that's what it ends up being, is an excuse. That sounds great, but I can't do this. Or that sounds great, but so and so had this going for them, or so and so accomplished this. There's always an excuse at the end of that sentence. And some folks could come to this show and say, "Well, that sounds great, but." That's kind of where I'm going with that sentiment.
And so the missing ingredient to the secret sauce, locked away in that Bush's baked beans, or KFC masterpiece, or where, not KFC masterpiece. Wow. KC masterpiece and KFC. You just mash them together, and hey, we've got a new brand.
Yeah, I think you might have pitched a new product for their menu.
There we go, barbecue chicken. What they're missing is attitude, and that's where that but comes in. And I always joke with my daughter about the frogs, because there's a yeah but. It's that frog again. Mm-hmm. There's got to be some caveat. No, it's just you getting in and taking the project on head on.
Exactly. And the last two episodes, again, we talked about putting everything together and all the foundational pieces of what it takes to be financially successful. We have covered several times. But there's going to be some excuses. There's going to be some resistance. There's going to be some denial. There's going to be some level of, I can't do this because, or that sounds good, but. And so before we go into really these key strategies, I think it's important that we put the lid on those and call them out and say, that's your own misleading. That's your own belief that's going to keep holding you back. Because I hear people say, well, this certain thing won't work because of this certain thing. And I am being vague because we're going to get to some specific points here. But my point in saying all that is we're going to address some of the most common beliefs around why you can't achieve that. Or better said, why you think you can't achieve that. We talked about limiting beliefs. Those factor into these, but we still see some people who just believe these, and it's not a limiting belief, it's a false belief. Maybe that's the best way of putting it. It's a false belief in these flaws. So, Bob, let's get right into it. There's 4 things that if you want to be successful with money, you can't blame your inability to succeed on these things. What's number 1?
Well, I'm going to go in the order that you've got that we were trying to talk about, because it probably is not going to. It might throw you off if I give you a wrench so early. I really want to hit number 2, but let's start with the economy.
Yeah, I think that is, and we could all be succumbed to it. Well, the economy just is bad. People are having a hard time keeping up. Inflation is what it is way too high. We can't even afford to live, much less, pay down debt and increase our savings. There's this whole, the economy is the enemy type of sentiment. Is that true?
Oh, I would agree with the economy being the enemy, but that still doesn't put a damper on your ability to get out of a bad situation. Mm-hmm. I think that one of the words that we don't use but very much goes in with our conversations is opportunity cost.
Yes.
And the economy itself, whenever you say economy, or whenever I started off with it, the first thing I think of is food prices. Mm-hmm. And they suck. They're astronomically high right now. But what that entails is that you will have to spend more for food, but you will need to spend less somewhere else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you have to kind of pick and choose in this mode. In fact, we were working on our budget here this last week for November, and month over month, it feels like grocery gets just a little bit higher. Not significantly, but I would say probably in the last 6 months, we have probably had to increase our grocery budget as much as $150, it feels like. Now, granted,
Yeah.
we do a lot of our own. We raise almost all our own vegetables. We raise our own meats. We are very, very self-sustaining from that standpoint. So our grocery budget is not like what a lot of Americans experience in a grocery budget. But we continue to see that increase in cost month over month, maybe 5% here, 10% there, just incrementally increasing. I hope there's a limit because I'm getting tired of spending hundreds of dollars a month on food for my growing family. It does take other dollars away, and that's kind of where I'm going with this comment, is as we look at what else is increasing, and then if we only have a set amount of money that we're making each month, we can't just stop buying food. So where
Yeah.
do we have to pull from? It could be savings. It could be paying down debt. It could be those things that we really don't want to have to pull away from. But also, it might mean we pull away from the travel. We pull away from the spending. We pull away from some of the things that aren't a vital necessity that we have chosen to spend money on in the past. So I completely agree that whenever the economy continues to increase at some level, I don't believe it's gone down like some people have said it's gone down. I think it's still going up. That does dictate you have to reallocate and remanage that money. And I think you're right. It can be the enemy from the standpoint of there are factors that we can't control that dictate how we have to spend our money. And we have to make decisions according with that. But can we blame it on our success? No, we can't blame the economy.
No, you have to take the bull by the horns, whether you raise it or buy it at the store. Um, but you have to, in essence, chart a path for where you're going to put that money, where you're spending, and how you're changing your spending. And yeah, I cringe a little bit when you say take it from savings. But going back to not necessarily taking, before you take it from another bucket or another category, you might just need to change where you're making your purchases or the brands you're buying. I think I read something the other day that people are supplementing by going to other stores, and they only want to go to those stores for a short period of time. And I'm like, why? Why would you want to go to those stores for a short period of time if you could buy the same product, but not the brand name? You could buy that same product for, well, probably at this point it's 60 to 70%
Yeah.
the price. So at 30 to 40% cheaper. And then you just make it a lifestyle change. And that's where you really get into it is, well, we can blame the economy, but really the economy is always going to be an issue one way or the other, and it's cyclical.
Yep.
So it's going to be good and then it's going to be bad. Well, it's going to be good and we're going to jump in, but then things cost too much, or hey, we're getting a good rate on this, but really it's external to what your individual choices are, and those externalities can change at any given point. It's what you create a lifestyle out of that really makes the difference.
Couldn't have said it better myself. I think that's really the essence of where people let the economy dictate what they can do and where they take control of the economy they have been given. Because there's always going to be people who capitalize in a down economy because they're making the right financial decisions. So you can't say that the economy is why you're not financially successful. It's because you're not making the right decisions because the economy is down. And that's the switch that we have to flip on that. Thank you for kind of bringing that into a home run there. Number 2, I'm going to let you have this one too since you got excited about it.
No, I got excited because it goes right along with the economy. It's that government
The big
and all that
G.
cheese they're handing out, right?
The
Big
OV.
G. Like a bill sitting on Capitol Hill.
Oh, and by golly, if we could go down a tangent on this one because of when we're recording this. I haven't seen the latest updates, but apparently we are back and officially open. Is that right?
I couldn't tell you. It just moving that direction. I guess the local elections were last week, and there was a move in a certain direction that certain people that were in the House and Senate approved of, so they want to come back to the table. But yeah, it really, either side of it, I think the big thing now is the air travel, and it's really hitting everybody.
Mm-hmm.
But I will tell you that for a government that was shut down, there were still people going to work. There were still people in office holding meetings telling us what the government wasn't doing. So I wasn't fully understanding who was or wasn't working, and who was taking vacations, and who was or wasn't getting paid. I mean, I heard a big thing about who wasn't getting paid that needed to get paid. Food assistance became an issue, but then there's some of that, and I don't know how much of it was legit on how much people were getting from food assistance versus how much they really should be getting from food assistance. And I know that's a whole nother can of worms and tangent. But, as long as I got my mail and the banks were still open,
Wait,
I think we did okay.
Mail?
Yeah.
I have a hard time getting mail these days.
You have a hard time getting mail? Most of my mail is blocked. It's my wife that keeps getting paper stuff in the mail. I get UPS, FedEx, and whoever else, Amazon.
I should rephrase that. I get mail 3 weeks after I should have got it.
Yeah. Have I shared the joke that I heard earlier this summer is, whatever stamps cost now, 76 cents or whatever.
78.
It's 78.
Prime.
It's 3 cents postage and 75 cents storage.
I believe that.
Don't expect to get anything more than 7 days, or less than 7 days, I guess.
Pretty much, yeah. Gone is that 3-day service of put the mailbox and across the state they'll get it in 3 business days. That's I think they look at it for the first time in 3 days maybe, but it's not going to get there. That's for sure. So why can't we blame the government? Well, as we can see, the government's not very reliable either way. So you can't take your success based upon what they do, and you definitely can't blame your failure on what they do because they don't have it all figured out either. But yeah, this in of itself, we could go several different ways with why you can't blame the government. What do you feel like is that overarching reason why people do blame the government?
Because it's another easy excuse. And just like the economy, it's always going to be up or going to be down or sideways, or somebody's going to, politics is a professional sport. I'm sure, if we could put patches on it. So it's something external that can have some effect, but it shouldn't drive, unless you work in the government, it shouldn't drive your spending habits.
I feel like we put a lot of emphasis on when the government is making the economy bad, we suffer. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And when the government makes the economy good, we might not suffer as bad. That I feel like that's kind of a sentiment by folks who are going to really sit in this camp, because to your point, it's easy to blame. It's also easy to make an excuse.
Yeah.
That the government is going to lead to my success.
Yeah, the government is not looking out for you. As much as that politician says he is, or she is, I can guarantee you who they're really looking out for is the person that shows up in the mirror every time they look in it.
Absolutely.
So
and the person putting the check in their back pocket.
Yeah. So the government, it's gonna fluctuate. There's never gonna be a great time with the government. The government is going to affect the economy. The economy is going to, in turn, move the needle on where the government goes with things. There's some interconnectedness, but I guarantee you anybody that has money didn't base their decisions on what the government or the economy were doing whenever they started.
Absolutely.
I would say that those that are super well off use strategies based on government decisions, but just going with, and there's tax breaks and whatever else, and incentives. But every day Joe the plumber is not going to rise or fall based on government decisions unless they're living off the government. And in that case, you're not in a good spot because, like I say, the government gives, the government takes away, as we've noticed with this shutdown.
I won't get the saying exactly right, but the concept will make sense. So I heard it said, and I feel like this maybe originally came from the guy that owns Berkshire Hathaway. That's not Warren Buffett, is it?
It is Warren Buffett, yeah.
So the saying, which is not 100% accurate in how I say it, when everyone else runs, I walk. When everyone else walks, I'm running.
Mm-hmm.
Concept meaning when everyone else is suffering and the economy is down and everything looks dire and just does not look like it's very strong and very healthy, the person making money is capitalizing on that by investing, by paying down debt, by using their liquidity and making more cash and building their wealth because everyone else is walking and crawling and they're really slow. So the person building wealth is taking advantage of that opportunity to grow their wealth even more. Flip side, when the economy is going up and everyone is wanting to go out and borrow money for houses and wanting to buy new cars and wanting to enjoy the flourish of great, wonderful times, that person is sitting still, not doing much with their money, letting their money work for them, letting the opportunity present itself again, and they're content to just sit there and wait until the next low comes because that's when they capitalize. And that is such a different mindset than a vast majority of Americans have, I feel.
Yeah, it's counter, which is why it works. Mm-hmm. And that's the whole thing with investing, which is where he's made his money, is that you don't go with the flow. And we didn't have that as one of those things that you could blame, but right in with the economy and the government, people blame the markets. Mm-hmm. Because there's never a good time to get into the market. And, yes, oh my gosh, we got to sell. I mean, you can't watch the market.
Yeah.
The market, again, is in there with the economy and the government. And when decisions are being made somewhere, the market goes up or the market goes down. You can't time the market, but you can't blame the market either because it's either going to be too high to get in or it's too low and you're already past the point that you should have sold something. Mm-hmm. When you really should just put your money in and let it go. Mm-hmm. And that's where people lose, is by trying to play it or selling, which is what Warren Buffett doesn't do.
Right.
He enjoys his Coca-Cola and his ice cream cone from McDonald's, which he owns, and calls it a day. So
yeah, totally different way of thinking, and I feel like once you can step outside of society, let's say, mm-hmm. and
turn off the
view money
news
from the terms of, if I want to be different than everyone else, I need to manage my money different than everyone else. That's really what it takes, and that's where we're ultimately going to get to in this entire conversation. So I don't want to jump there too fast, but it is a totally different mindset, different philosophy, different approach, which is why it works in those times. And that's what we're kind of the core of what we're getting to is, if you're going to do the same thing everyone else is doing, don't complain about getting the same result everyone else is getting. Do what other smarter people are doing. So the third thing that I really see a lot of times being the excuse or the blame is just your situation. Mm-hmm. And how easy is it to blame our situation? I think it's easier to blame our situation than it is to blame the economy, personally.
Well, I think a lot of people say, well, my situation is based on the government or the economy, mm-hmm. or the market or whatever else, and it's really... No, it's the choices you've made, and that's your situation. And we make how many of our own misfortunes based on our decisions.
Yeah, absolutely. And the funny thing about a situation how fast can it change?
Oh, pretty quick.
So why do we blame the thing that we have the most control over?
Because it's an easy excuse.
They're all easy excuses.
Well, yeah, and I don't want to make light of the fact that they are easy excuses. I mean, they are.
Mm-hmm.
They're excuses, and we've already told people, all of our listeners know this. It's a simple process, but it's hard as hell to follow.
Amen.
At times. At times, it's very easy. When you get started, yeah, I can do this for a day. Okay, I can do this for 15 minutes. Maybe we can do it for 20 minutes. But you can go a few days and something happens. We've had this conversation before. Something drops out, something changes, and you go back to square one. Yeah, that's your situation. But you got to have some grit and say, okay, I'm not living this way anymore. We've had this conversation too, that we can blame our situation. We can continue crawling through the muck, or we can say, I'm not going to live this way anymore. And you change your situation.
Yeah. The situation is something that not entirely, but you can take some accountability and responsibility for you creating it. It's also the thing that you have 100% ability, in my mind, to change it. Now, is that going to be an easy change? No, probably not. It might happen tomorrow. It might take you 2 years. It might take you a lifetime to actually change your situation, depending upon where you're at and where you want to be. But you will never change it if you keep blaming it.
Yeah.
So we have to take that off the table, and your situation is not the reason that you cannot achieve financial success. Your situation is the thing stopping you right now because of where you have put yourself, and it's also the thing that you have the most ability and power to begin to change and create a new situation that you are proud of and that warrants you financial success.
Yeah, and how many years ago now was it that we talked about James Clear's book, and I kind of did a synopsis on making that 1 degree change on habits. And I think the biggest thing with the situation is we want to change our situation, but it might not change for months or years, and that's hard.
Yes.
Especially in the society that we live in now, that everything's instant gratification. There's a commercial, it's my money and I want it now. Or, trying to do something in a society that expects something immediately, where, Amazon drops things by drone now.
Yeah.
You don't have to wait 3 days or a week or whatever, and maybe you get a little extra percentage if you wait. But, the whole idea that your situation, it took you a while to get into it. It's not going to change overnight, and there's no such thing as an overnight success. Usually overnight successes are decades in the making. So yeah, just the whole idea that it's easy to blame or use the excuse of the situation. It's a whole heck of a lot harder to start, and maybe I don't want to say it that way. It might not be the hardest to make a change if you make an incremental change, but your situation might not change for quite some time. And that's the hard part, is realizing that your goal is not coming anytime soon. Which, again, we've had that conversation on what is our timeline expectancy when we make a change.
Right. I really love, and this isn't entirely the same thought process, but I think it's applicable. I was watching a TV show here a few weeks back about a barrel racer, and they were sharing their story and their journey of working to basically be at the top level at the National Finals Rodeo, and that being something that took years of dedication and hard work and the right horses and the right money and the right rodeos. Just everything had to line up to accomplish that. And this is something that in any goal, any area in life, the same principle can apply. So this barrel racer started back in her 30s, I believe. Had some life changes happen to where she had to step off of the rodeo road and couldn't compete. Had some health things with her husband she had to take care of. And long story short, it was about 10 or 12 years before she came back in and started competing again. And within a couple, 3 years of coming back into the competition full time and really going at it strong, she ended up getting to the national finals rodeo, to the highest level of competition, and ended up achieving her goal of career within that. But all that, what really jumped out to me amongst all of that is in the story she was saying that this was a goal, and I don't recall the exact number of years that she said, but I'm going to throw a number out there and I think it's close. This was a goal that took her 15 years to accomplish.
Wow.
And I'm sitting there going, and I get disappointed when I don't accomplish something in 1 year. That took 15 years of the journey. And it wasn't like she chose, it wasn't as if she just faced one thing after another and was never good enough. It took that long in her life to get to the point where that was even a possible reality. And then she capitalized on it. But she never lost sight of that goal for 15 years. That was always in the books. It was always in her vision. And even though she knew it wasn't going to happen in 5 years, it wasn't going to happen in 10 years, it wasn't even going to happen in 12 years, whatever the time frame was, she never quit striving for that. And that really woke me up to go, okay, what are some big goals that I have that I believe are going to happen, but my situation isn't allowing that? Does that mean I stop believing in it? No. It means I just have to be patient and consistent in pursuit of that and continue to change my situation so that one day that can be my new reality.
Yeah. So she was an overnight success that took 15 years on the process.
Yeah. And how many stories like that are there out there?
Oh, all kinds.
And I unfortunately, I don't think a lot of them get told, because I think if we could really see how much time it took to get from point A to point Z in some people's lives, we would either be discouraged or incredibly inspired. I don't know which one.
Well, I think it would open a lot of people's eyes to the fact that we all have this thought process of what a trajectory should be in a straight line. Mm-hmm. And in reality, it is never that simple. Mm-hmm. And there are always going to be setbacks. And I think the biggest thing for me would be in the story that you watched, did she realize it was going to take 15 years? Did she expect it to take 5, or did she expect it to take 20? Or did she know all along that it would take about 15 years? Did she know that was the process and the end result?
I don't think she thought it would take that long, but she was going to go until it happened, however long it took.
Yeah.
Was kind of her mindset. She knew that she couldn't accomplish it because of different life circumstances, but she didn't give up on accomplishing it. So looking back, she's like, yeah, it took 15 years to get there. It's kind of that acknowledgement of this. I was never going to give up on this, but it took a long time to make that happen.
Yeah.
The thing that I have the most fun throwing rocks at when it comes to what you can't blame is your background.
Mm-hmm. This one, I'm going to say this one is, we went from the macro level of economy and government that you have no control over whatsoever, to your situation, which your situation and your background can go hand in hand. But your background, I'm going to go with the standpoint of it's where you came from and the attitudes and behaviors you grew up with, which can be incredibly limiting, especially on who you surround yourself with and how entrenched you are in your beliefs. Which, how many times have we talked about that? I'm going to tell you that you can blame your background, but you're not going to get it anymore.
Exactly.
Nothing is going to change if you blame your background. And you're still going to have to get to the point that something has to change. Something's got to give. And everything I learned in my past or from my upbringing that may take me years or decades to get out of, something's got to change there, and I might have to unlearn everything that I thought was correct for all those years.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point that we should probably clarify because, as I said at the beginning, we're talking about what has to change if you're dealing with money. So you can't blame your background and then never do anything to change your situation. That does not align and does not lead to financial success. There are people in this world who their backgrounds, as you said, are an incredible handicap to their ability to succeed for a variety of reasons. And then there's people who have a background that does not warrant or lend itself to any level of financial success at any point in their future life, and yet they chose to not let it hold them back. So the background itself didn't have any bearing on what they were able to accomplish and what their situation became. They realized that I get to be the one to set my future regardless of what my background was. And obviously, you have to have the right mindset. That's not something that you fall into. It's not something that comes to you. It's not something that is easily achieved. Anyone can realize that. But you can't blame your background and do nothing about it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think with going through all of these, the economy and the markets and the government, you disregard.
Mm-hmm.
They're external. So what? Easy blame game there. That's what the government's doing anyway. But situation and background, it really is on you.
Yes.
That we went from external sources with government and economy to internal sources that really do have an effect on you,
Mm-hmm.
that have been part of who has made you who you are, or you have developed over time. I still think your situation is of your making.
Mm-hmm.
To an extent. It is something that's external, but it is something that you've moved into versus your background is something that you were born with.
Mm-hmm.
And that one's harder. So we're getting the degrees of difficulty
Mm-hmm.
to where unless you really want to make the change, it's very easy to fall back and say, oh, that's just who I am. Oh, that's just, I'm never going to get over that. And again, that's mindset that we've talked about before. But just the idea that the different levels of difficulty that you have to overcome
Mm-hmm.
based on if these are external aspects or internal aspects, I guess would be the word to use.
Yeah, I love that. It reminds me of previous episode here a while back when I had Derek Kenny on, and he was talking about a conversation he had with the lady who had been told early on in her life by, I believe it was her dad, that $70,000 was a lot of money. It's probably all that she was ever going to make because of her family where she came from. And for decades, she never made more than $70,000 a year. And it wasn't until she realized that that was a limit that she had placed upon herself because of what she had been taught, that she then broke through that ceiling and changed that mindset and began to make more money because she felt that she was worth more money. So your background, I think, has a huge subconscious effect, but the difference in people who come from a background that does not lend itself to a natural level of high success. Let's just say the middle class average American. You and I both kind of fall into that. we could say that we are only going to be as successful as our parents were. And we would each have different stories around what that looks like. We could also say we are going to be more successful than our parents were. And that shift in and of itself can lead us to greater challenges, greater opportunities, harder work, longer time frame to accomplish it. But I guarantee you, at whatever level your or my parents achieve success, if we stay at we will only be successful as our parents, we have already set the limit and blamed our background for our own future. Versus if we say we want to be more successful, what is the limit on that? There is no limit. Is it easier? No. Is it going to take work? Yes. But that shift then puts the responsibility on us to chase that, not be held back by it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, the limiting factor is us and the decisions we make and the choices that we choose to pursue. I think another aspect of that, looking at who we surround ourselves with, that there would be people, if you come from certain, and maybe this is with any background really, there are going to be people that want you to succeed and push you on. There are going to be people that want to hold you back and don't want to see you succeed. So there's a piece in there that you have to identify who those people are, and if that's who you're going to surround yourself with. So yeah, you're setting the bar for yourself based on externalities that could or could not be, that might or might not be the best influences or the best choices to make. But it's a starting point. That's not really even a good way to say that, but it's a baseline. How far can I move the ball?
Yep, exactly. Well, the bottom line, and we'll get to go into these strategies in the next episode. We kind of set ourselves up for that. Your financial success, it starts and it ends with you, your success or your failure. Whatever you're going to accomplish in life, it's going to start and it's going to end with you. And we've talked about what you can't blame. We've talked a little bit about what it takes to actually accomplish that. But again, the whole theme of this conversation, what has to change for you to win with money? So the question we have to actually